Deshaun Tate back with you guys one more time. Tate's Take the podcast. Find it anywhere you find your favorite podcast: iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Also, you can check it out as we also stream on Fire TV, Apple TV. Um, um, where's our other ones? I'm kind of drawing a blank right now. I guess because we're kind of streaming all over the place. Facebook, Twitter as well. Um, little bit of everywhere. Let's just put it that way. A little bit of everywhere. Apple TV, all that good stuff. Um, appreciate you for joining us. It's episode number 99. And remember to go and follow along on all social media platforms. Tate's Take Hoops. TATESTAKEHOOPS. We like to call it where basketball lives. The best, the most entertaining, and the most informational and educational basketball content on the planet in the form of a podcast. Now, without further ado, because I did want to jump into some of the grassroots level things that I want to talk about, address. There's some guys have been recently committing, amongst other things, that I kind of wanted to address some of that as well. Don't want to leave those guys out. And got just a teeny tiny bit of NBA and college talk as well. And without further ado, I want to get ready to bring on a guest that, I've been efforting and taking a look at some of the different things he's done. I said, there's some interesting things to this guy that's I think that the people will consider to be very intriguing. Some interviews amongst different things. So I'm going to get him on in here out of the green room. There he is to kind of talk about some of these things. And that would be none other than my guest in Zach Schumaker, who happens to be, Zach Schumaker, who happens to be a grassroots basketball reporter. Make sure you give him a follow on all social media platforms at Shoes, spelled very uniquely. Obviously, looking at the way the last name is spelled, @_SCHUZ_. Zach, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming on and welcome to the program.
Absolutely, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today.
No problem, man. Glad to hear that all is well for you. And I wanted to get into some of this stuff because I had a couple different questions. We're obviously getting ready for drawing closer to the college basketball season and the NBA season, and high school is going to be crazy and bananas this upcoming year. So I wanted to address a couple of those things. And, one of the things that I've been looking at probably more than anything else, I wanted to start out with this, and for a good reason. Jon Scheyer has done a phenomenal job. It looks like he's going to be, at least from a recruiting standpoint, we'll find out from X's and O's and the clipboard a little bit later, but been doing an excellent job on the recruiting trails. When you start talking about guys like, Derek Whitehead and Derek Lively and so many other guys, I'm sure some of them you can even feel free to mention as well. What is just your overall initial take of when you see him doing what he's doing? It's almost as if it's like, not really like move over Coach K type of deal, but it's like he's really picking up where Coach K is leaving off. And I think that that's definitely going to be very beneficial for the program and making the Blue Devil Nation feel really good about their chances going forward.
Yeah, and that's what's pretty scary because I think, like you said, obviously Coach K has a legacy. Will Coach Scheyer be able to replicate that success? Obviously, time will tell. Coach K has built up one of the most historic programs in college basketball history and college history, to be honest. But in terms of, like you said, all we can evaluate so far is what he's done in terms of putting a roster together. We don't know X and O's yet. We'll see that in another year. But talk about recruiting class, he's got number one in the country. So obviously other people might have opinions. This class might be a little bit better, whatnot. But end of the day, he has brought in many of the top players. Lively's, in many regards, number one player in the country, elite rim protecting guy. He can do pretty much a lot of things. Obviously, you see some comparisons. The Anthony Davis's, the Evan Mobley's, he has all those abilities. He can step out, shoot the three. He can really just be a dominant down low center. I think he can run power forward at times too. Kyle Filipowski and him will be a dynamic duo down low. He obviously can space it out. He proved to be one of the top players at Peach Jam. Another top 20, top 10 player, in my opinion, type of guy. Drake Whitehead's one of the most fascinating players, in my opinion, too, because he's really young. A lot of guys today we see, especially because of COVID, try to this hold back thing. And that's not really a problem with that. But he's one of the younger guys in the 2022 recruiting class. So he's got a bright future. He's got a lot more room to develop. His ceiling is extremely high. Can run the 2 through 3. Can guard probably 1 through 4. He can even bring the ball up at times too, most definitely. And then you bring in Jaden Schuh, a sharpshooter, obviously Duke's always had those type of players. When you look at the great teams, the JJ Redicks, the Grayson Allens, Jon Scheyer, even when he was back out there, like there's many other guys on this list, obviously too. But he could become that guy. Now he obviously has to develop. That's not an easy role to be a dominant 40+ point or 40% type shooter, but he's coming in there. And then you look at the other guys. This class isn't done yet. At least I hope it's not done yet because you got two big targets they're looking at. Mark Mitchell, a guy that has kind of slipped a little bit. I think he fell to number 30 on something. I don't agree with that at all. It's just because he's been hurt for a little bit. He is a top 10 player, in my opinion, one of the best small forwards in this class. He's still heavily in the mix. Obviously, he's down to top 4. I think it's mostly going to be between UCLA, Duke, KU, and Missouri, kind of still in the mix, hometown teams there. But he obviously would be a huge addition. You may move the lineup to have, obviously, you have Derek and him at the 2-3, Kyle and Derek down there at the 4-5. That'd be a special group. JJ Starling's the other big piece. He's got a lot of crystal balls there. He's a combo guard. Obviously, he could easily run the 1, a 2, kind of can switch up between that. Personally, I'd like to see them possibly bring in a transfer portal point guard down the line come next offseason. Get a guy that's going to kind of enter the portal. Someone maybe like a Remy Martin, like that kind of established senior kind of a guy that just ready for one last year of college basketball. They could bring that and that team could be complete. But just so far, this recruiting class obviously is special, and I don't think it's going to be done yet.
Yeah, I'll tell you this much. This Mark Williams guy that's already there on campus, I'm kind of getting a really, really good feeling, and definitely did when he was playing on the circuit for Nike EYBL at that time. And you're talking about moving over to a guy like a Lively, who maybe, because Imani Bates was on that team, and obviously because you had Jalen on that team, some of those guys kind of taking up some of the some of the star power, if you will. But if you haven't been watching Derek Lively, then you just haven't been paying very close attention enough. Let me ask you this, because while Derek Lively is definitely one of my more favorable players, particularly on that roster, even in this class within itself, you named another guy named Kyle Filipowski. Talk a little bit about what he brings to the table. I mean, he just seemed like he was maybe not one of the guys that just shot up the rankings necessarily so fast, but somebody that was just really, really high, in the recruiting realm. And it seems like at one point in time, he was just like everywhere and visiting everyone. It was like, who is this kid? What kind of player are they going to get out of someone like a Kyle Filipowski, where it almost had to feel like he could have maybe gone just about anywhere in the country?
Yeah, he definitely could have. Obviously, I think it was a week or two before he made the decision. Kentucky came into the picture. So really, he could have went anywhere, including I think pro offers were obviously going to be on the table if he chose that route. He wasn't interested in that, obviously, but like he could have went anywhere. And I've gotten to know Kyle now for 2.5 years now. I've seen him develop from the time it was unranked, just brought in his Iowa offer. I think it was the first one. To obviously today now being a top 10 prospect, and something always unique about those type of guys, like guys that are the phenoms from day one. And Amari Bates, nothing wrong with that. Obviously, those guys are phenomenal. Nothing against that, but when you see the guys that have to come from being a nobody, a guy that has no offers or very minimal offers, and you see the way they have to work, rather be some guys that have a massive growth spurt, but a lot of the cases it's they put in a lot of that grind. They don't get that attention their middle school years, their freshman, their sophomore, junior. Some cases even not in their senior year, it has to be an extra year JUCO or something like that. But when you see those guys have to grind their way through and eventually keep climbing their way up, Shaden Sharp did the same thing in this class. Those are the guys that really intrigue me, because those guys you see have the motivation, they have the work ethic, and they're ready to go out there and continue that, keep proving why they should be at the spot. So you're getting that mentality of Duke, and I know Duke fans already love him. He's going to be a fan favorite. He's just a guy that embraces. Like when you look at some of the great Duke players that not necessarily people kind of hate against him on other teams. Like teams just don't want to play with him. You look at Grayson Allen, you talk about Christian Layton, they're like those guys that are just pests on the court, they're trash talking, they embrace the rivalry, they embrace the fans. That's what he's all going to bring. And then on top of that, you bring in the talent. Obviously, I said he can space it out, shoot the three at an elite level for a power forward, small forward, center kind of guy. He's got height. He's going to rebound. He brings tons of energy, like I mentioned. Like you're just getting a guy that brings so much different stuff that's bigger than just on the court. Like you're getting a guy that's going to help a locker room, help the community, help just the fan base embrace. Like he's bringing so much more on top of this elite 5-star talent that he's going to bring there too.
Now, when you mention this particular conference right here within itself, you typically always think about the gridiron, the pigskin, football. As I kind of roll my eyes a little bit, I'm so much of a basketball guy. The more you get to know me, Zach, you'll see that I'm kind of always poo-pooing what they like to call America's sport. So it's no longer just football. You get some really big recruitment commitments out of a guy like a Jaden Bradley earlier in the week or last week, now almost a whole week, and Nick Smith from Arkansas. Ironically and coincidentally enough, two programs that went really deep or fairly relatively deep in the NCAA tournament as well, but not necessarily known for their basketball programs. Kind of talk about the upward, I guess, trajectory that maybe not only these two programs, that these two teams, that these two players, the conference itself, that they are on, because no question about it, Nate Oates is obviously really showing to be a really good coach. Eric Musselman with some NBA, resume to himself as well. When you start looking at some of the guys that they have either brought in or are bringing in the future, really big names. J.D. Davison and Charles Bediako, Josh Primo just went on over to the league now. Moses Moody, Jason Holt, Chance Moore, all of these different guys. So considering those things, plus don't forget about the transfers with Amari Burnett and Chris Likes, looking at what they're able to do and looking at what they have been doing, how big are these commitments for these two programs, and why do you think some of the biggest determining factors are behind why they have been able to land this kind of talent?
They're both monumental. And I'll start off with Alabama for starters, because with Arkansas, I'll get to him in a second. But a lot of times we see kind of people love that aren't necessarily in depth with basketball, kind of go by trends. Like you see all of a sudden, oh, Duke was bringing all these top guys, and Duke's still an elite class. Obviously, we just talked about that and all these other groups. But Nate Oates was just quietly staying there. Like, this recruiting class is nowhere near done yet. We're only a few months into it. You still have a majority of the top 100 available. He was just kind of quietly sitting there. And we see the roster. Obviously, there's still a lot of pieces, but most likely after this year, we're going to see quite a few guys go. I think J.D. Davison's a lottery pick. Javon Cornelly is going to probably get drafted somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where he should be out of there. Jaden Shackelford, he's probably gone too. So you look at this. I think Amari could have had a shot at that. Obviously, unfortunate injury. He's going to be out for the season. He'll be back next year. So you got a couple guys still returning, but you got to bring in another point guard. Nate Oates obviously has proven he knows what to do with those guards. He can run three out, and he's going to dominate with that. So when you look at that, and you come to a guy like Jaden Bradley, who most regarded as the best point guard in this class, if not one of the top 2, 3, whatever. You see this offense. You see Nate Oates say, listen, we're going to run three guards. You can do what you want to do. We win basketball games. We're obviously going to be competitive in the SEC, possibly even win it. And we have a legit chance of winning a championship. You see Amari Burnett. He's going to be a backcourt duo. We can bring in someone from the portal, possibly land another guy in the recruiting class. You got Brandon Miller heavily in the mix. You got a lot of different guys. That's a huge pitch to a lot of different guys. So how do you really turn that down? I'm not quite sure, because Nate Oates has built up guys from a Josh Primo, who wasn't really highly regarded coming out of high school. And to a lot of people, obviously, I think 247 nailed it the best at 27. I think he was ranked. Other ones had him 50s, 60s, or whatnot. Clearly, he became a lottery pick, proved it last night, 17 points. He's an exceptional talent. How do you turn that down? I'm not quite sure. So you just look at the culture, you look at the winning, all that kind of appeals to Jaden Bradley. So, like you said, SEC is still obviously a football conference. They're historic. They dominate college football for the past who knows how long. I don't know if it's ever going to stop. But this is kind of becoming a basketball conference too. And it's kind of weird because we haven't seen any conference really dominate at two sports, at least two big sports like basketball and football have. But yes, is Alabama a football school? Most certainly. Are they a basketball school now too? Definitely as well, which is really special and really rare to see. But Nate Oates is really building this program up. So Bradley, a huge commitment to that, piling on top of Josh Primo, piling on top of J.D. Davison, and just building this track record. Colin Sexton obviously wasn't Nate Oates, but still in that program the past 5-10 years. Like, this is becoming special for the SEC and Alabama especially. But you head over to Arkansas now. That's something else that's very special. Eric Musselman, an elite coach, he is the most energetic coach, most fun coach out there. And that's a coach that not all guys necessarily would like to have, but guys that have that fun atmosphere, that like to be around guys, and a coach that just embraces them, has a fun character. It will still be tough on them. Don't make no debate about that. But he's energetic. He's going to have fun with guys. That can attract to a lot of different players. And so that's why he has this class. And this wasn't obviously the first commit. It wasn't like a come out of nowhere, the very first commitment in this class. They already had Barry Dunning, who's a top 50 ranked player. He should have been top 30 in my opinion. You already had Justice Pena, a top 100 guy. You already had Darian Ford, a top 45 guy. Like, they already had talent there. But you add in now Nick Smith, who I think is the best shooting guard in the class. I think it's between him, Casey Wallace, a couple other guys. Obviously, Jariq, I think, is that mix, but he's more of a 2-3. Like, he's got kind of multifaceted, super high ceiling type of guy. Shaden Sharp obviously is right there too. Obviously, these guys are all in the mix, but you get the guy that's obviously debatably the best shooting guard. Eric Musselman will tell you, obviously, he is the best shooting guard. And he stays home, which obviously is the hugest thing. Like, everyone knows that whatever sport you're coaching, you got to keep your talent home, especially if you have a guy that is debatably the best at his position, a top 10 talent. You accomplished that with both Darian Ford, Joseph Pinion, and Darian Ford, Joseph Pinion, and now Nick Smith. You did that already before Devo and Moses Moody and those guys. So that's a huge commitment to keep talent home when you had the likes of Kentucky going after them. You had KU, you had Alabama. That's a huge monumental win for the program. And it's going to continue to make success. I think Devo is going to be one of the best breakout players this year. He's going to be a lottery pick, if not top 20 next season. So that's going to open up a guard spot. So Chris Likes obviously will be gone. He's finishing up his super senior year. So he's going to fill into that role. They're going to bring in other transfer guys. But both those moves were monumental for the SEC and the programs individually, most definitely.
Yeah, as it kind of seems that guys like Nate Oates and Eric Musselman, right there on the heels of so many other good coaches within the conference, obviously John Calipari, that probably needless to even be mentioned. Also Rick Barnes, Bruce Pearl, who recently got to a Final Four as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see going forward, particularly this year for the Tide and for the Hogs. In the Locker Room, episode number 99, what you're watching right now, Tate's Take, where basketball lives. Got my dude Zach Schumaker in here, Grassroots basketball reporter, amongst other things, not just on the grassroots level. Follow him on Twitter at Shoes. And you know what? While we're talking a little bit, Zach, I kind of wanted to touch on this part a little bit while we're talking about recruiting, because this is one that, at one point had the number one recruiting class in the country, and maybe now they've dropped to maybe 2 or 3 because of some of the recent commitments by Imani Bates and some of the other guys. But the University of Michigan is almost like they're bringing in a whole new, crowd of guys. You just talked about, guys like Eric Musselman, who are fun guys. Of course, they can be kind of strict and be players' coaches, but it can also be coaches' as well, and finding a really good balance. That is the definition of someone like a Juwan Howard, essentially.
Yep.
What do you expect from, because they're a team that, when you looked at last year and you saw, who the consensus would probably agree is Gonzaga right here and, Baylor right here. But outside of those 2 teams, if you just had to pinpoint just one team that could probably be in that same conversation as them, it was the Michigan Wolverines. And now a lot of those guys are no longer there, but they're filling those voids with a lot of new pieces. And we know how hard it is to cut down nets when you have so many new guys on campus, but they have a lot of really high and top prospect guys. Talk a little bit briefly about what Juwan Howard is doing and some of those players, so the people over there at A Square can get familiarized with what they can expect out of some of those freshmen.
Yeah, I love this Michigan team right now. And Coach Juwan Howard really built it the way I would do if I was a coach and I was putting together a roster. And that's, you can bring in your freshmen, most definitely. Those guys are guys you can develop. Some of them will be one and done. That's obviously great. But my personal thing is the biggest thing about this past year, the transfer portal, is you can add in veteran guys, and that's what every roster is. When we've seen Anthony Davis go all the way through, win a championship as a freshman. We've seen Carmelo do special things out there. We've seen Jahlil Okafor. Like, it is possible. But then you see guys, 99% of the time, Zion Williamson was the most dominant force. He couldn't get it done. Marvin Bagley, DeAndre Ayton lost in the first round. You see just even Cade Cunningham and Evan Mobley. Like, it's very, very hard to do with even the best freshmen. They obviously don't have a Zion Williamson on Michigan as a freshman this year. But they have a lot of great guys, but what makes them special is they brought a guy in Devontae Jones who's going to be a phenomenal leader for them. A guy that just was a player of the year in his conference. He's now coming out there, exceptional leader. You kept a couple of big-time veteran guys that's been in the locker room as well. So those guys will really be not necessarily the most important thing, but will be critical for this team reaching a ceiling. And whatever that ceiling is, I'm not sure. If that is a championship team, that's good. That could obviously be that way. Obviously, it's kind of hard to determine a team this early on when they have so many freshmen, but you just got to see the way they have the opportunity to. Moussa Diabate is a elite, kind of just no one knows exactly how special he is. He doesn't have a ceiling yet. He can play defense at a high level. He can score, but there's so much he can add to his game that's going to be special. And most obviously the biggest piece on this team, Hunter Dickinson, we know what he's capable of. Obviously, he's going to improve in some aspects to his game. We'll see that in a couple months now, but he's going to be the focal point of the roster. Then you have Caleb Houston, a great 3-and-D guy. He can play at a high level. Once again, going back to the point guard spot, what I'm super high on is Frankie Collins. He's a good point guard. I think obviously the best thing is that you throw a point guard as a freshman in the mix. It's possible. It's been done. But obviously, if you can sit back for a year or even 2 maybe and just learn from a veteran that knows what he's doing. Same thing we've kind of seen in the NFL aspect. Like the quarterbacks, you have a good veteran like a Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes mentorship type of thing. That's critical for any position. So you see a guy like Frankie Collins. Could he possibly start the Division I level this year? Sure, obviously he has the talent to, but there would be a lot of ups and downs, and it would be hard to win a good amount of games to become a contending team right now. You sit back now and say, all right, you're going to still get a lot of minutes. Don't get me wrong. You're going to probably play 15, 25, maybe 30 minutes a game this year. But you get to learn from a guy that just won Player of the Year, fifth-year senior, guy will be drafted most likely next year in Devontae Jones. That's going to be huge for Frankie Collins. Like, he's going to develop him drastically over the next year. I had Devontae on for a couple months ago talking about that too. Like, he wants to help Frankie in any way he can. So we're going to see Frankie develop over the year, and especially then take over sophomore year, be a huge piece down there for freshman point or sophomore point guard at that point. So really, there's a lot. This list goes on. They have a lot of big time guys. Kobe Buffkin's another guy I'm super high on. Like, there's just so much talent on this freshman class.
Doug McDaniel, yeah.
Yep, like there's just so many guys. And we're going to see now, obviously, there's recruiting. Terrace Reed's a huge guy I had on a little bit ago. He's exactly what a Big Ten center or power forward should be. Huge for that landing in 2022. Doug McDaniel, they just like Greg Glenn a couple hours ago. They have another commitment that I know a lot of people are probably know what's going to happen. Jet Howard. Obviously, there's a good relationship there in that locker room with his coach. His brother is also there. So we could possibly see him joining there in a couple of days as well. But that 2022 class is going to be big. And just kind of see Juwan Howard. He's the player's coach, like you said. He played at the NBA level. He's coached at the NBA level. He's done everything that every player really dreams of. So that's a huge pitch to guy. That's why he's going to keep landing guys, winning games, high character guy, done exactly what these guys want to do someday. So I don't think this recruiting stuff is going to stop anytime soon for the Wolverines and for Michigan.
I want to stay right here within the Great Lakes State, within Michigan, and ask you about a couple of these guys that they've obviously got some commitments from. Talking about Tom Izzo's Michigan State Spartans, Trey Holloman, a guard that's going to be coming in, and maybe not the most talked about guard that there is, and obviously Jackson Kohler, another guy who just seems like he's skyrocketing. Maybe not the rankings, but of the conversations that I've been hearing a little bit, and just things that I've been reading online. And I know you had some opportunities and time that you had with Jackson Kohler, so kind of interested in what that conversation entailed. And I want you to tell everything because I definitely want people to be sent over there to your YouTube channel and let people know where they can find that as well, so that they can check out the conversation and the interview in its entirety. But what is, some of the things that maybe not talked about, or people say, hey, I've never heard of Trey Holloman. I've never heard of Jackson Kohler. I don't even know what I can expect. This is what Zach Schumaker has to say about him. What would that be? Because, they play a very specific brand in East Lansing. How do those two fit?
For starters, yeah, you can check out. I actually interviewed both guys before. So obviously my YouTube channel is Shoes too, but in terms of those guys, they're both special guys, but I have to start with Jackson Kohler. He is someone that I've gotten to know now for ever since he got into high school. I've known him since Strive for Greatness. My brother used to play with him, and I've got to know Jackson Kohler for a long time now. And he's always been the same type of player. He's got better, obviously, developed over the past 3 years. But what he's done has been he's dominated his position. And for whatever reason, I'm not a big fan of rankings and that type of stuff, but a lot of ranking people look at him and say, okay, well, what's the ceiling? He doesn't have a 7'5" wingspan. He doesn't have a 40-inch vertical. He's not going to outrun guys. Okay, that's fine, but where's he going to be playing now? The Big Ten. He even mentioned in an interview, like that's the conference he zeroed in on. It was between Iowa and Michigan State. He knew that's the conference he needs to go to. You don't need that down there. I mean, obviously you can have that. It's not going to hurt you by any means, but Hunter Dickinson is not the most athletic player we've ever seen. He's not the fastest player ever. He just dominated the entire conference last year as a freshman. And this list goes on. Obviously, the entire list of every great big man we've seen in the Big Ten has been similar to these guys. So you put him out there. He's 6'9", 6'10", 6'11" range. He has the best fundamentals we've seen come out of high school in a long time now. He's going to be able to dominate from day one. Like, that's a guy that I don't really care where the rankings put him at. If I'm talking about who's going to have the most productive college career, obviously NBA's potential is down the road there too. But just in terms of college, that's a guy I could say could be a top 20 prospect in the country right now, just because of what he's going to bring to that program. Like, you're going to get him for 1 to 4 years. Who knows how dominant he's going to be, how quickly. But he can face the floor out, shoot the three, which is different than some Big Ten big men we've seen recently. But there's no guy's going to outthink him. He even talked about that. He went out there, practiced with Michigan State. And I've heard this too from different coaches as well. Like, he went out there on his visit, practiced with the team. He was doing the same type of stuff he can do at high school. His footwork translates to any level, just because in today's game, not much footwork's taught at the AAU and grassroots level. Like, that, some guys have a certain amount, but in terms of the defenders, like, you don't see that too often, so you don't really know how to guard a guy that does a couple different post moves, a couple different footwork moves. Like, there's not too many guys that know how to deal with that. So that's going to translate from day one. And obviously, getting the body right, just learning the game, the flow, like, that's going to take time. But he's a guy that can dominate from day one at Michigan State, similar to almost what we just saw with Hunter Dickinson at Michigan. So he couldn't have picked a better fit. Luka Garza comparison at Iowa would have been great too, but Izzo got the guy he wanted. He landed a huge commitment there with Jackson Kohler. Trey Holloman, another special player. He obviously is going to take some time. The point guard spot's always tough to develop into at the college level, so he may not come in and dominate from day one. But you have guys out there, all right, Jaden Atkins is going to be someone on high. He's a freshman this year. Pierre Brooks. Also, they're going to probably ring transfers. We know Izzo likes his veterans too, so he'll have some time to develop. It's not probably a day one, go all out. He's going to dominate, lead the team, but he's going to get some minutes freshman year and slowly work his way up to becoming a very, very valuable Michigan State Spartan over time. He's another special guy. He's got a lot of energy in himself. He's going to be a pest on defense. He has a lot of scoring ability. Obviously, going to get more and more controlled, learn the system, kind of get Izzo's wisdom onto him a little bit more. But he overall just has a high ceiling to develop into something special out there as well.
Yeah, Michigan State kind of known for their dominant point guards and guys that tend to stay 3 to 4 years and obviously end up looking really good over time. May not look like the greatest guys in the world the first 1 or 2 years, but after they get acclimated under that system a little bit, things tend to change. So what we're gonna do real quick before we get you up out of here, we do appreciate you for joining and sticking around. Zach Schumaker, Grassroots basketball reporter. Check him out on social media at shoes @_ SCHUZ _. That's @ _SCHUZ _. I want to play a little bit of a game with you. I tend to do this from time to time with some of my guests. Of course, this is the quick release segment that is sponsored and powered by Exotics by Curtis Smith. Look good, feel good, play great. Exoticsproducts.com. Just go to the website, give your skin what it deserves finally. And all 110% natural products, no chemicals added. But before you go to that checkout and check out, go hit the discount code, put in Tate's Take for your 15% off. So this is somewhat of a somewhat rapid fire questions. Quite a few fill in the blanks before we get you up out of here within the next couple minutes. You ready to go, Zach?
Most definitely.
All right, cool. Let's do it. Let's start off here. And I'll say it twice just to give you a little bit of time. This was totally unexpected for the people that are at home watching. So we're going to pick his brain a little bit. Fill in the blank, one-word description of Dior Johnson and his playing style. Again, fill in the blank, one-word description of Dior Johnson, maybe my favorite player in the next class. Obviously going to Oregon, decommit from Syracuse, and his playing style. What would that one word be?
Showtime.
Showtime. Okay, interesting. Let's go fill in the blank. Okay, player that MJ Rice reminds you of the most. He's a Kansas commit, formerly of Oak Hill, I believe prolific prep now. I'm not sure. Player that MJ Rice reminds you of the most. Could be a former player, current player that the people will be familiar with.
It might be a little bit high ceiling a little bit for this one. Obviously, I don't always like NBA All-Star comparisons too often, but in terms of just the physicalness of the guy of his age right now, a great defensive player, has upside on the offensive end as well as we've seen. I think there's similarities to Jaylen Brown. Once again, obviously Jaylen Brown's an elite player right now, super high ceiling, great player in the NBA All-Star level player. But in terms of similarities, the physicalness of the 2-3, the knack for defense, the athleticism, I think you could see some similarities in there. Also, other great, just kind of physical, dominant power or small forwards, shooting guards, power forward type of guys that can just dominate you defensively and has upside offensively. That's kind of the same world we're going to see him in.
All right, and I think we might have a little bit of breaking news, so I want to make sure we throw this in here real quick for you. Shoes, 5-star going to Kanye's school, 2024 Hoops recruit Jockey Howard transferring from high school in Georgia to Donda Academy that is funded by Kanye West. So that's kind of one of those, you heard it here first deals. I thought that would be some really good information that could work out for your interests, Zach. Let's go with the next one. And I know that we're kind of up against it and kind of look like we're buffering a little bit here. But let's go to the next one. I'm sure you can hear me okay. Blank might surprise everyone else on the next level, but not me. That can be an NBA rookie. That can be a college freshman this upcoming year. Who would you fill in that blank? Might be a surprise to everyone else on the next level, but not a surprise to me.
I'll say one guy on each level right now. I'll say my NBA guy will be eventually Josh Primo. I've said that since he was actually his junior in high school. I've said he's going to be a pro player. dominated in a scrimmage with Ty Washington, Frankie Collins, and company in that game. I fall in love with his game. Obviously, it might take a couple years. He's the youngest player in the NBA right now, but eventually he's not going to surprise me when he becomes one of the cornerstones of the Spurs franchise. College-wise, two guys top of my head. Obviously, there might be some guys I'm forgetting right now, but two guys that come to mind. First, Jaden Jones at Rutgers. I think he's going to be one of the top guys coming in there. He's a 6'9", do-it-all, can almost like a Scotty Barnes in the sense that he can run up 1 through 4. He's a big guard. He can score. He's been quietly dominating some practices right now. He's going to have a huge role for Rutgers right now. Finished somehow outside the top 150, whatever reason that's class. He reclassed up to go play with them last year and just kind of learned the system during that season. Alex Fudge at LSU, one of the most gifted freaks of nature we've seen. He's athletic as all get out. He's going to develop perfectly in the LSU system. Obviously, they're kind of similar to Florida State in the sense that if you start, you come off the bench, doesn't matter. Like they're all getting a lot of minutes, all getting a lot of runs. So he's someone that I know not a lot of people are talking about right now. Eventually, his time will come. High school-wise, there's a few different guys out there. And I mentioned Jackson Kohler. He's a guy that's ranked wherever. He should be top 20 type level guy. I've said Nick Smith for a long time. People started to learn that one recently. Put top 10. He kind of was my guy for a long time. There's a few other guys. Oh, Judah Mintz, I'll say for that one, actually. For a high school guy right now, the most underrated guy is Judah Mintz. There might be someone else not coming to mind right now, but he should be top 20, top 30. Like, he's going to change the program at Pitt eventually. Coach Jeff Capel has finally got his point guard. Xavier Johnson was special. He's going to be great at Indiana now. But Judah Mintz is the guy to really start this whole program up and get them back to where they should be.
Judah Mintz, Pittsburgh?
Yep.
Sounds about right. Let's go with another one. Fill in the blank. The best or let's say best or most underrated part of Amari Bailey's game. One of the top 5, I think top 3 ranked players in next year's class. Best or most underrated part of Amari Bailey's game.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a part of his game. I'd say it's more just how special he can be down the road. Like, he's got so much stuff that we see right now, and I know a lot of people follow him. They know he's on social media, but people don't really understand like what he's capable of. And he's still so skinny. He's still got so much more room to grow into his body. He still has so much more he could grow as a player. And so it's just how special he could be someday. Like, there's so much stuff he's not really too much stuff he's bad at, to be honest. It's just so much he's good at. But what he can be is something that I don't think a lot of people would realize, because if he develops in the right way, we could see him becoming one of the better players in the NBA someday down the road.
One of the highest ranked guys so far that is still unsigned and uncommitted to a particular school. Fill in the blank. I wouldn't be surprised if blank will or has the best chance to land Jordan Walsh. Jordan Walsh, just seeming like he's one of those guys whose name's being thrown around so much more often and frequently. Where would you not be surprised if he landed, or maybe where you expect for him to land?
We already talked about them before. They just landed already. Darian Ford, Joseph Pinion, and Barry Dunning, and now they just got Nick Smith. So I think they have one more piece that they need to add on to this group to kind of perfect that 5-man lineup they can put out there as a freshman group. I think he's going to be heading out there to Arkansas whenever he announces the decision.
Just a couple more questions for you, and then we'll get you out of here. The NBA rookie and the college freshman that you're most excited to see this season.
NBA rookie. This rookie class has got a lot of talent. I think it's one that has a chance to. It's way, way too early. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to compare them to any of these top groups before,
Sure.
But the names out there right now, like, they have a chance to become one of the better draft classes in NBA history. Like, we just see the depth of this class and the amount of guys that have a chance to become maybe the best player in the NBA someday. Guys like Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley could develop, right? So really any of those guys, like, I'm excited to see Cade Cunningham. Can he get Detroit back to where they once were 20 years ago or 15, whatever it was years ago? That's something that could be huge for his name. Can Evan Mobley develop into his whole potential, which would be a scary sight to see? Can Scotty Barnes become the guy that we all think he can become? Like Jalen Suggs, like, the list just goes on these top level guys. So I couldn't say there's like one guy I can't wait to see. It's more just how many of these top guys can pan out, and that's what I'm excited to watch. As for college freshmen, I think there's 2 guys that headed the most. I was super high on Scoot Henderson. Obviously, G League, so can't count him in college. Same thing with Jaden Hardy. They're both dynamic, elite players. But besides those 2, Paul Labincare, obviously, going out to Duke, there's nothing much you can't not say about him. Obviously, Zion has the biggest name. Paul might just be just as physically dominant as Zion, in the sense that he just can dominate as position, not as athletic. Obviously, I'm not saying that, but what he can bring in, just the physical dominance. He is athletic too. Don't get me wrong; he's freakishly athletic, but he's going to be physically dominant to watch out there at Duke. And then the guy out there, Gonzaga, Chet Holmgren. we haven't seen a guy play at that in the NBA level or at the NCAA level. We've seen Jokic come over from overseas at that point center, whatever you want to call it, type of thing. He's just going to be something we haven't really seen a 7-footer bring the ball. Evan Mobley did it briefly last year, but he's going to bring the ball up a lot for Gonzaga. He's going to run the floor, shoot the ball, pass the way he passed. Like, he's going to do so many things that college has never seen before. So obviously, has to be something everyone wants to be excited to go watch.
Just 3 more of these questions, and I promise you we'll get you out of here. Let's go back to the same question that we had about the other gentleman. Wouldn't be surprised if blank will or has the best shot to or best chance to land Ty Rodgers. Where would you fill in the blank there?
This is another one of those guys I could also put in there in the group discussion before. Who's the most underrated player? He's always been someone I've been in love with in terms of his game, a special player. So I think it's going to come down to Illinois, Michigan State. At this point in time, I'm going to have to go Michigan State. I think the pitches that Izzo can make to him of just seeing Trey, seeing Jackson there, seeing the history, staying home, obviously is a huge thing too. I think that might ultimately edge them over a little bit over Illinois. But Illinois still has a very good chance, don't get me wrong.
Interesting. Very interesting. Who's the player that you believe is flying under the radar in the class of 2022, maybe not getting nearly enough publicity?
I have to say Judah Mintz again. I know he's got some attention, but talk about a guy that just went out to Peach Jam, pretty much dominated out there with Team Durant. He was one of the top guards the entire way through, and he still didn't move that much in rankings. He should be top 30 in every single ranking. I don't know how someone doesn't have him in the top 50 at the least. He's in that discussion. JoJo White, he's obviously a big-time guy as well. Led our second, I believe, in Peach Jam in rebounds going out to West Virginia. He's a special player. There's a few different guys, but I have to say, like, obviously, Ty Rodgers threw out there, Jackson Kohler. There's a lot of different guys in the mix there, but I have to kind of be headed by Judah Mintz at this point in time.
Last one for you. Blank is as good as advertised. Give me an NBA rookie, a college freshman, a high school senior. You can give me all 3 if you want, or you could just give me one. Who's as good as advertised?
I would say in terms of NBA rookie, Cade Cunningham's the most just ready to be. I mean, we know, could he really become the best player in this class? That's going to be determined. But we know at the end of the day, he's going to be an all-star most likely someday. I think he's the most guaranteed to pan out. Could someone else edge him out and become even more it Sure, but at the same time, it have to be something like the Hakeem Jordan debate. Like, we have a Hakeem Olajuwon who debatably is the best center of all time. Are you going to take him over Jordan again? I don't know. It's obviously going to be something that'd be interesting to see, but he brought championships to Houston. He did his job, all-time great. So you have to be Jordan good to outbeat him, but that could be something we could see. I think Cade's the most dominant. We know what he's going to bring to NBA level. College freshman, I think it'd have to be Paulo. He's the most guaranteed. I think Chet's going to be just as fine. He's going to dominate too, but we know Paulo's good. It's Coach K. Coach K has done it time and time again. Marvin Bagley, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram. The list goes on. He's done it. We've seen him go countless times at this position. So I think we can guarantee Paulo would do his thing and dominate out there. As for high school guys, I think it's going to be a lot of different guys in the mix. I think obviously the easy one would have been Jalen Duren or Imani Bates. They reclassed up now to go to Memphis. So they're special players as well. So we kind of see a lot of different guys in the mix right there. You see, obviously, Kyle Fitzpatrick is a great player. Derek Whitehead, all those guys we talked about. Derek Lively. I don't know if there's one I'd say is the most dominant, guaranteed yet. Kind of have to see over the next year, but a lot of guys in the mix for that number one spot, I think, in 2022.
I think besides the fact that I'm going to take DeJuan Wagner Jr. As mine in terms of good as advertised, I want you to tell the people a little bit more about this right here. Tomorrow, LJ Thomas is going to be making his commitment and making a choice on where he's going to decide to go and play ball. You see the list of teams right there and programs and so forth. But I want you to be able to fill the people in on where they can find that at, and maybe a little bit of LJ Thomas, or even a prediction or a projection from you on what your expectations are, because I want the people to be able to go over there and check out some of your work and obviously be able to follow this commitment.
Yeah, so obviously, as you said, he's coming tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. He's a top 150 ranked guard. He obviously has a lot of stuff. He's going to be on IG Live, so you can follow him as you said a few different times at _shoes_. But he's got a lot of different options here. We see the top 6. Obviously, he hasn't told me yet. I usually don't tell anyone until if a player tells me. So he hasn't let me know yet. He's probably let me know tonight. But when you look at his top 6, I think OT, from my personal opinion, won't be in the mix anymore. They already have the roster set. So I think it really is going to come down to those 5 schools we see there that are collegiately. Now, LT could possibly come in there. Obviously, could work something out. I'm not quite sure yet. But I think he's going to be between
Sure.
those top 5. He's taken a visit out to Georgia recently. That's going to be a big time school. Like, they're always going to be filling players. I know a lot of guys transfer out of Georgia for a lot of different reasons out there, but he also could be filling in at that role. Houston's hard to turn down. They've won. He fits their grind mentality. He's a great point guard. He's going to be a guy that we're going to see for a long time. Like, he's just a great college point guard. NC State staying home for him would be huge. That's going to be one of my favorites. I think that's not necessarily my favorite school prediction, but that's going to be in the mix. Ole Miss has landed a few different recruits. They could continue the hot streak there. Memphis, they've just had a couple guys decommit in Zoka Littleton. So that kind of opened up a spot, the guard spot. So that kind of reopens that opportunity. So really depends on those 5 schools, but all 5 of them would be getting a Pitbull mentality point guard, a guy that's going to come in and contribute to some capacity from day one and eventually take over and become the there's the cornerstone of that program for the next 2, 3, 4 years.
No, it makes perfect sense. Listen, I want to make sure I let the people know. Go and follow this dude. If you don't do nothing else, you've been sitting here listening to him educate you all this time. Give him a follow. Also, go and follow the YouTube channel. Zach Schumaker, Grassroots basketball reporter, again, on social media, on Twitter, particularly at _shoes _ @_shoes, SCHUZ _ Zach, thanks so much, man, for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. Let's stay connected and do a little bit of talking, some texting, exchanging some different things, and throwing around some different ideas to work on some projects in the future.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate having me on today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. There's my dude, Zach Schumaker. And of course, I appreciate him for joining us and coming to educate the people and just bringing him on, and grateful for the opportunity and him taking time out of his busy schedule to join us. That's going to conclude episode number 99. So I hope people got more than enough information. I know that I did in between these headphones. A lot going on all the time. So I'm thankful for Zach to come over and grace us with his presence. At Tate's Take Hoops on social media, TATESTAKEHOOPS. You know that's where basketball lives. And per usual, always tell you to tell your mama, tell your grandmama, tell your baby mama where they can find the best, the most entertaining, the most informational, and the most educational basketball content on the planet in the form of a podcast. Remember that we stream live on Facebook, as well as on Twitter, on YouTube as well. So go and follow. Make sure that you go and follow the Flow Television, the Flow Television, the flowtelevision.com. Also obviously the channel itself, Fire TV, Apple TV, all of those things, Roku. You can also find many of these segments and episodes there as well. Spreaker, even adding that to the list as well. At Tate's Take Hoops. Cannot wait, keeping fingers and toes crossed for the next one. Finally getting to episode number 100, so we're going to have to do it big, but I'm just going to tease it that way instead of telling you what I have in store for episode number 100, which is a pretty big deal to me. So I appreciate everybody from episode number 1 all the way to 100, no matter how many you've subscribed to, and that you've watched and that you've seen, listened to, and all of those things, just for checking that out and being part of the program. I'll see you guys on the next one for episode number 100. Bye-bye.